Hello, and welcome to some more fanfiction reading. So, we have the third part of Behind the Scenes. So, we are in the chapter called Orphans. Let's go. So, the room I walked into is instantly silent. Not just people aren't talking silent. They'd stopped talking, moving, some were trying not to breathe even. I looked back at the boy who let me in, one eyebrow raised. The fear in the room was so strong, I could almost taste it. The redhead still had his chest puffed out, trying to maintain his pride. Cleared my throat. So, what's my job details? We want to learn magic to defend ourselves. We're tired of being beat up. It's not our fault we have to beg or steal in order to eat. It's not our fault we were left with nothing. It's not our fault nobody wants us. It's not... He suddenly stopped, choking back tears I didn't think he meant to let me see. Turned back to the room to give him a chance to get control. There were about 15 kids, looking to be from 6 to 14. The boy behind me was probably the oldest. Does anyone already have any skill with magic? I asked, assessing my new students. There wasn't any doubt in my mind that I would teach these kids. I would have been just like them if it hadn't been for Metallicana. He found me wandering around when I was 5. I don't know anything about my life before that. He may have been a bastard, a tyrant, but it was because he taught me that I could survive on my own. A small boy with black hair raised his hand. I can use magic, he muttered quietly. He looked to be about 10 years old, but he was still tiny. I beckoned him forward and looked around to see if anybody else said anything. Me too, chirped a little voice, and the girl who opened the door earlier popped back up next to me. Alright, not a bad start. What kind of magic do you have? And what kind of are you brats wanting to learn? I found a chair and sat in it as the room exploded into noise. The fear started to leave them immediately, which surprised me. My multiple piercings paired with my red eyes and height usually had people afraid of me for a long time, if they ever actually stopped being scared. But these kids, well, they probably had seen worse than me before. I raised my hand to get them to stop babbling. I can use shadow magic, the black-haired boy said. Looked at him for a moment, trying to figure out what he'd almost said at first. He met my gaze with red eyes. It felt like I was looking into a mirror. Okay, show me. What's your name? I'm Rios. He stepped back, and I saw his brow furrow in concentration. For a few seconds, a shadow started to hover around him, making it hard to see him. He stopped his demonstration. I could see he was proud of what he could do. The ringleader spoke up. Oh. Rios is the reason we're all here, really. He can make his shadows big enough to hide more than one person, and he's used that to help bring in new kids. He seemed awfully proud of his young friend. And I helped too. A little voice chirped. How's that, little bird? I really like this perky little kid. She stuck her tongue out at me. I'm not a bird, but I can fly, sort of. I watched her for a minute. I just watched her for a minute, waiting for her demonstration. She huffed, then jumped a little and disappeared. I smelled her on my other side, but waited for her to say something. Boo! I pretended to jump when she yelled, making her giggle. So, little bird, you teleport. It's useful for sure. She puffed her cheeks out at me. I'm not a bird. My name's Sam. She shook her red hair out of her eyes and looked at me defiantly. Okay, Sam, but I think you'll be my little bird because you chirp like one and you fly, sort of. And I gave her a grin, careful not to show her how sharp my teeth are. They tend to scare kids too. Right. I looked at the kids surrounding me. Can any of you read or write? Their eyes all dropped to their bare feet. No, sir, Rios muttered. I frowned, and I did a count while they were so still. There were 12 of these brats altogether. Not one of them could read or write. Okay, I can do something about that. Do you have some paper for me? I want to write your names and learn what kind of magic you want to learn. Redhead gave me a piece of paper and a stub of charcoal. This'll work. I spent the next 20 minutes talking to them one by one, getting their ages, their names, and what they wanted to learn. Oh boy, what have I gotten myself into? Books. I finally left the brats early the next morning. They tended they tended to stay awake all night anyway, since it's easier to steal from shops at night. There were a few of them who would steal during the day, but they were staying in today. I carried my bag of jewels, so if the old geezer asked about my job, I could prove I did it. As much as he watches me, I had to be careful. There's no way I could tell anyone about these kids. No telling what would happen to them. It's too easy for kids to end up in the wrong place, like I did with Phantom. They had a good thing going, or at least they had a nice little family. They would have a good thing going by the time I was done with them. I looked up and realized I was passing a bookstore. The sign said it wouldn't open for a few more hours, so I looked around to make sure no one was watching me. I walked into an alley by the building and scaled the wall, growing spikes out of my hands and feet to climb. I carefully broke a second-story window and climbed in. Not surprisingly, it smelled like the shrimp in here. I wonder why that even crossed my mind. I shook my head and looked around. With my enhanced senses, the low light was plenty for me to see with. I searched out books on teaching magic and a few on learning how to read. Sinking these into my bag, I headed back towards the window. At the corner in my eye, I saw an ancient-looking book. Judging by how strong her scent was in the store, even above the normal ink and paper smell, the shrimp had spent quite a bit of time around this book. I looked around outside, and not seeing anyone, I jumped to the ground. At this point, I could get a few hours of sleep before the start of that stupid festival. There's some event starting today that the guild takes part in. Apparently, Juvia had been nagging me to at least put in an appearance. Thinking it was a beauty contest, and there were several women in my new guild that I wouldn't mind seeing. Boy. Gee. They're all an improvement over the trolls of Phantom. That's one thing guild has going for it. Juvia had been one of the few women in the old guild, and she was the only one who had been remotely pretty. Yeah, I could put in an appearance for this contest for sure. Boy. Anyways, Miss Fairy Tale. So yeah, I didn't say it at the beginning of the last chapter, or any of the chapter, Jesus. But it's. And I also haven't mentioned it before, but I do quite like this story. It's, it's a good idea. It's well thought out. It's well made. I mean, obviously, you have to come up with a few things. You have to come up with a few things, but or the writer had to not only change the full-on perspective, but you had to think of basically new plot points, because there was a lot of stuff that you didn't get to see that this person was putting in, and you could have just made it skip around, but they didn't do that. That was nice. They added a little bit in there. Okay. The sun came pouring into my window, hitting me in the eyes a lot earlier than I'd wanted it to. I rolled over groaning. After a few minutes of futile hope, I decided I was done sleeping. It was too light, and with the sun hitting me, I was too hot to sleep. May as well get up, I thought to myself. Crawling out of bed, I turned my shower on and stepped in before it was warm, letting the cold wake me up. I stood in the shower longer than I needed to, planning out my first lessons with the orphans. By the time I had it all sorted, the water was getting cold again. I shut it off and stepped out, wrapping a towel around my hips and using another one to dry my hair. I guess I've waited long enough. May as well go before Juvia comes looking for me. The Rain Woman seems to have adopted me as a good deed or something. She was determined to make sure I wasn't alone or something. When she wasn't stalking her beloved popsicle, she was nagging me to make friends. Well, I guess I could tell her now that I made some. She wouldn't tell anyone about the orphans either. She hated Phantom too, but once you're there, you couldn't just leave. Getting dressed, I stomped out of my house and headed for the guild hall. The town was packed today, and I felt uneasy. There wasn't really a reason, but something had my hackles up. What the fuck? I put it off as a result of all the extra people. There were too many for my hearing to be able to tell if anyone was following me, or my nose to single out any particular sense. I rolled my shoulders and forced myself to relax. The doors to the hall were thrown open to all the guests and a good breeze, so I slipped in without anyone noticing. Grabbed a beer and some bolts someone had left on a plate on the counter. Probably that Mira Jane chick. She was ridiculously nice. If I didn't know her reputation, I would call her a fool. Being nice just gets you in trouble. I found my table no one was sitting at, I found a table no one was sitting at and parked my ass out of the way. I started munching on my meal just as the pageant started. First up was the booze hound. She had on simple clothes. I wondered how she was trying to impress anyone. It was more clothes than she usually wore, actually. She suddenly threw her cards in the air, and as her magic swirled around them, changed into a bikini. And now she looks like her usual self. Nothing she didn't wear every day. The next contestant was Juvia. I hadn't known she was actually competing. She magicked water around her body, and when it was settled, she changed to a bikini as well. She was yelling something about the popsicle watching her. The stupid stripper was talking to the salamander about something. I don't think he even has a clue how much Juvia loves him. Mira Jane was up next. She told us she was going to exhibit her magic and then transformed her head into the salamander's annoying blue cat. It was pretty funny, actually. Then, just as I took a drink, she changed her head again into mine. I couldn't help but snort. Couldn't help the snort of laughter that shot beer out of my nose and mouth. I think I'm the only one who was laughing, though. Next was the Titania. She marched out in her armor and stood with confidence. Rumors erupted around the room about the strongest woman in fairy tale. She wasn't bad looking, really. Her hair was about the same color as my eyes, and she truly was strong. Almost as strong as me, I think. She used her re-equip magic to change into a Lolita outfit. She walked off stage to cheers and hoots from the crowd. I can't exactly explain the weird jolt that went through my stomach when number 5 came out. A tiny wizard had a huge smile on her face, which is so different from the fear I usually saw. She threw her arms up, and words exploded into the air behind her. It was refreshing she wasn't trying to be sexy by copying the girls who went before her. I couldn't take my eyes off her, and she walked back off stage. Not a bad one to watch leave. Oh, God. As the cowgirl started her routine, I started to space out. That weird feeling in my head that something was off was creeping into my head again. I walked over towards the bar to grab a new beer since I'd spit the last of mine out earlier. As I heard gasps and people yelling, looked back to see all those spectators who weren't part of fairy tale running from the room screaming, and the blonde princess turned to stone. There was a brunette in glasses standing next to her, trying to be coy with a fan in front of her face. A guild mark declared from her barely covered breasts that she was a member of fairy tale. A geezer was yelling at her, asking if she was trying to ruin the festival. Doesn't the festival need to have a main show? She asked haughtily. The curtain fell behind her, revealing the rest of the girls, all stone statues as well. You fool! Turn them back to normal, the geezer yelled. Suddenly there was a flash of lightning, and my hair stood more on end than usual. I knew that smell. When the light faded from my eyes, I saw Loxus standing on the stage with a man with green hair, one who was wearing weird armor that covered his whole face except for his mouth. Loxus smirked. The real festival begins now. Ooh. Yes! Fighting festival. The real festival begins now. Loxus! Old man Makarov yelled at the stage. Freedom Bigslow, someone yelled. I looked into the voice and saw a black-haired wizard. He's the one who strips all the time. Juvia's popsicle. I rolled my eyes and turned back towards the bar. Why don't we play a game, old geezer? Loxus sneered at his grandfather. Don't do something stupid. We have to get ready for Fantasia. Turn them back to normal now. Makarov looked ready to pop a vein. Fantasia? That's not until tonight. If we hurry, people might still get to see it. Loxus sounded amused. Lightning arced down from the ceiling, aimed straight for the princess. Stop it! Makarov's face was almost purple. Last second, the bolt curved away and missed the blonde statue. Loxus walked up to her with a sly smirk and threw her arm around her stone shoulders. I'll take these girls as my hostages. If anyone breaks the rules, I'll break one of these statues. Like I said, this is the main show. There are things that can't be taken as a joke, Loxus. I didn't think the geezer could look any more angry. As I finally reached the bar, the lightning asshole's goons were piping up. It's just a game to find out who, one said, is the strongest here in fairy tale, the other finished. The rules are simple, Loxus stated. The last survivor wins. The battle of fairy tale begins now. I turned to look over my shoulder again to see the reactions of the fairies. All of a sudden, a table went flying in the air. Isn't this great? Natsu stood where the table had previously been. This is way too simple. I'm all fired up. Of course you'd be excited. Natsu, your attitude really pisses me off, Blondie snarled to the salamander. The pink-haired idiot smiled even bigger and ripped off his jacket. He took off running at Lox as people were trying to talk him out of it. Did you forget how badly you were beaten by Loxus last time? I was just a little kid then, Salamander explained, not slowing at all. Wasn't that just last year? This should be funny. Calm down, Natsu. That was the only warning he got then he was struck by a bolt of lightning that hit him so hard it knocked him out. No one else was laughing, so I didn't, but I wanted to. If you want them normal, you have to defeat us, the brunette said. There are only 4 of us. We have almost 100 people. That's not fair for us. Man, that guy is weird. His tongue was hanging out of his mouth like a dog. Whatever, I thought. These losers aren't my problem. I turned to the bar and knelt down on the floor. I looked for something metal to eat on the shelves. I had stayed nearby, so with his ashes decided to do something in juvia, I could stop them. Or the shrimp. She'd come to enough harm recently. Gajeel joins the fight, ? I found a pile of tin plates. Jackpot. Tin wasn't my favorite, but it works. I was storing up as much magic energy as I could, just in case I needed to fight. I settled on the floor and leaned back against the shelves. I started eating. Heard the geezer and the stripper yelling about a magic barrier that kept the old man from leaving. I stopped listening for a while. Crunching metal doesn't bother me at all, but it is noisy. So it takes an effort to listen over it sometimes. Suddenly I heard a yell that almost brought me to my feet. It stopped just as quickly, and I heard the salamander ask, "Where is Loxus? Where are all the people? What happened, Gramps?" There was silence for a minute, but I couldn't tell from my position what was happening. The fighting festival has started, and Loxus is in the town, the geezer yelled. Got it. Just you wait, Loxus, aired the flame-brained steps as he ran towards the door. But they stopped, as if he ran into something. Why can't I get out? He whined. What the hell is this? I heard the geezer yell back. Why'd they fight each other? What the fuck? God, what happened? Fuck's sake. Why did they fight each other? I moved back enough to look over the bar and saw there were runes in the doorway giving a battle report. I dropped back to the floor. Gajeel, you don't care about these idiots. Just ignore them. Halfway listening to the updates Makarov and Natsu were reading to each other, their comrades fought each other. The salamander seemed to be frustrated he couldn't join in the fighting, but the geezer was just getting desperate. I could smell his despair from here. It mingled with his anger, leaving a bitter scent in my nose. This is stupid. He's obviously just bluffing. Pinky sounded sure of his opinion. Oh, you think I'm bluffing? Do you, Natsu? I jumped. I started because I hadn't heard him come in. It's a psychic projection, I heard Natsu's cat say. What are you still here for, Natsu? Loxus asked. Shut up, I can't get past the wall! Man, they're annoying. I decided to close my eyes for a minute, but their prattling kept me from sleep. I finally couldn't ignore them anymore. Isn't there somebody who can defeat Loxus? The geezer growled. I grabbed the last mouthful of metal and grabbed the counter, pulling myself up. I'll do it. I mumbled around the metal in my mouth. Don't eat the tableware, the little blue cat screeched at me. I could see some hope in the geezer's face as he asked me if I could handle this challenge. I've got a bone to pick with that guy anyway. Leave it to me, I said without looking as I walked out. Or at least I tried to. He said I ran into a wall as he couldn't see me. Not you too, Natsu screamed at me. I yelled back, the hell is this? Why couldn't I get past the doorway? Alright. I think we'll probably end this off here. Actually I'm gonna do one more chapter. Urza! Why the hell can't you leave? Stop copying me. The pink-haired idiot thought I was doing some purpose. Like I know, you're pissing me off now. Damn it, I'm not doing anything. I yelled back, crossing my arms so I didn't punch him in his stupid face. 2? The geezer yelled. Don't tell me it's just these 2 left. The blue cat was whining about not being included. The old man was shaking, staring at the floor. Is this the end? I heard him mutter. The salamander growled. Ah, fine. I'll just go revive Urza. He stomped towards the stage where the statue girls were, muttering. Just when I thought I had the chance to one-up her. Wait a second. How do you mean to? The master yelled at him. Natsu turned around. If I burn it, it'll come off, right? The stone or whatever. He and the geezer were yelling back and forth as the salamander lit his hands on fire and placed them on Titania's chest. Having fun with your hands there, salamander? I snickered. All of a sudden we heard a crack. Ah! Crap! I cracked her. Not happy. Get glue. We need glue. His cat flew away yelling, Aye, sir. I rolled my eyes. Idiot, you think that'll fix it? Obviously we need to use your fire to melt my iron and we'll weld her back together. The tiny crack on her forehead grew longer. Ah! I'm sorry. The flame brain was groveling at Urza's feet. Suddenly there was a shattering sound and the stone disappeared, leaving her sitting unharmed on the stage. I feel hot. Was that you, Natsu? She asked in a very dark voice. What the hell were you playing at? She yelled as she leapt to her feet. swinging a punch into his jaw. The momentum of her punch knocked him into me, and we both went flying. I shook my head clear from the ringing in my ears. I heard Urza tell the old man that she heard everything while she'd been a statue. Now I'm back in action. Now I'm back in action. The number of combatants has changed as well. Clever little setup. So there's 3 people. So that's 3 people. Not two, Gajeel and myself. I looked to the runes that displayed details of the fights and watched it tick up once more, stopping at 4. Or ticked up once again, stopping at 4. It went up, Natsu whipped around to glare at this stage. Who? Everyone is still a stone. So who? Scarlet-haired wizard in front of me grinned. Looks like that man has decided to join the battle as well. Missed again. That's the hype moment right there. Where everybody's just like, whoa! Oh. Anyways, Urza took off out the door. How come she can leave but I can't? Long after, the runes told us that she was fighting with the bitch, Evergreen. Kept an eye on the statues to see if anything changed as the fight went. Within minutes of their fight starting, the runes updated, and the statues on stage simultaneously turning back into girls. Huh? What's going on? Where? Their questions overlapping each other. Lucy! The cat cried as he launched himself with a blonde. I glanced at the 2 brunettes on stage. They both seemed fine. Looked at the runes again, and the number grew to 10. I walked back to the door as the old man explained what was going on. Who wants to try me, huh? I turned around to the salamander blowing flames and trying to pick fights with the girls. I must have spaced out for a minute. I had no idea what started him going again. I mean, we haven't even done anything. Bring on the fights. He was throwing punches in the air and an excited grin on his face. Stop that, please. I can't tell if you're joking or not. The blondie was whining at him. Hell, if you really want to, I wouldn't mind giving you a round. The brunette lush snarked at him. Kana, don't encourage him. What's wrong, Gajeel-kun? The rain woman had come next to me as I watched the morons bickering. Nothing. She smiled at me. It's good as a lot of fun, isn't it? Heh, at least they aren't boring. Rolled my eyes and crossed my arms. They're fucking crazy. Just then, room filled with enchanted boards displaying a skull and lightning bolt through its eye. Can you hear me, old man? And everyone from the guild, too? Looks like we've lost one of our rules, so I'm instituting a new one. So as to keep this battle moving, I've activated the Thunder Palace. You only have an hour and 10 minutes. Do you think you can defeat us, or are you going to play nice and retire, master? You could hear the sneer in the last word as Lox's voice fade out laughing. What are you thinking, Loxus? Are you trying to drag innocent civilians into this? The geezer was screaming at the sky, but stopped suddenly, grasping the coat over his heart. He grunted as he fell to the ground. Grips! Okay, so there's only like 7 chapters left. So what I'm going to do is we're going to save all those for the next episode, and that'll be the last one, because I assume the story will be over because the last chapter says epilogue. So yeah, we're going to do that. I'm going to go eat something because, yeah, I want to eat something, and then, yeah, we'll get back to this. I mean, obviously it doesn't really matter, but yeah.